Hello, everyone. This is another Freedom to Feel conversation, and my guest today is the lovely Marcy Langlois. She's a trauma survivor and chronic illness warrior, 20 years plus into her sobriety journey, who shares tips and tools accumulated from a lifetime of work to help others live beyond their limits. What's not to love about that? Living beyond our limits. And the full bio will be at the end. Her website, too, has the entire story, which she will be sharing here today. But one of the first questions that I love asking my guests, Marcy, is who are you in your own words? How would you describe who you are in this moment?
Well, I would say that who I am in this moment is definitely a spiritual being having a human experience.
Yeah,
There's just no doubt about that.
yeah. So, when it comes to limitations, why do you feel we limit ourselves? So, we create our own limitations?
Well, several reasons, but I believe my experience has shown me, and my work with my clients has shown me that it's our life experiences, right? As we're young, from 0 to 7 years old, our brain is in a theta state, which means we're taking in, we're operating in the subconscious mind. We're taking in everything around us that happens,
Right.
everything, all the experiences, and they get stored in our subconscious mind. And from that, we formulate beliefs about who we are, who we think we're supposed to be, what we think we're supposed to be doing.
Right.
And then those beliefs create feelings and thoughts. And then those feelings and thoughts equate to behaviors. And then the behavior creates our reality.
Right. Do you suggest that your clients engage in somatic healing for that reason, or this is something that they have to find out on their own?
I am a huge proponent of somatic healing. It has been such a game changer in my own recovery path. Somatic experiencing, especially, was
Yeah.
the modality that I've really leaned into and applied in my own life. So I think it's worth exploring for each person if it's something that resonates for you, for sure.
Right. Yes. What is the somatic healing modality that you engage with?
Yeah, so I use this modality called somatic experiencing. It was invented by Peter Levine.
Yeah.
He's amazing and his work is amazing. And it's all about exactly what you were just talking about. It's like we
Yes.
don't necessarily feel that pain, or we're not maybe consciously aware of it. But when we get into the body in a different way, then the body starts talking to us because
Mm,
that's where the trauma is. It's stored in the body.
right. Right. Yeah, that's exactly it. Has been definitely my case. So I know that all your stories is on your website. You're
Mhm.
very clear there. You outline everything from the beginning, middle, and end. Do you mind sharing that here, Marcia? I would love to hear the summary, perhaps, of your backstory.
Yeah, so I have a lot of trauma, right? And I'm not going to get into all the nitty-gritty details of that.
Yeah.
But essentially, I was born with a cleft lip and palate. That's when your lip does not form fully across and you have no roof to your mouth. Um, Along with that can come so many other medical issues. And so from the day I was born, it began.
Yeah.
First 7 days I spent in the hospital trying to figure out if I had other health issues. And then I had my first surgery when I was 3 months old and my last one when I was 18. In between all that was doctor's appointments every week, the ear, nose, throat specialist, the orthodontist, braces for 13 years. I grew up in a really volatile home. My father was an alcoholic, active in his addiction, and we had very little resources, no running water and no electricity for a time.
Yeah.
And then as I grew up and kept dealing with all of these events that I had been born into, um, I was taunted and teased and bullied, of course, for the way that I look and the way that I spoke. And I felt I took on the beliefs that I was not worthy, that I didn't matter. I was full of shame for who I was and where I came from. And by the time I was in middle school, I needed to start drinking because I couldn't deal with the internal pain and shame that I was facing every day.
Right.
So that sort of started the beginning of things for me. And then as I went into high school, um, the surgeries really escalated because I stopped growing. And so they could really start the reconstruction work on my face. And by the time I was 17, I was done. I was really done with it, right? I had my jaws broke twice in 2 years, and I was over it. But my senior year of high school, I started to be really hopeful. I applied for college. I was really looking forward to going and thought, okay, we're going to turn the page here. And as I did that, got accepted to college. I had an after school job. And on my way to my after school job, unfortunately, I got in a horrendous car accident, and three people lost their lives that day.
Yeah.
And so, because of that, that changed my entire life from that moment forward, of course. And I felt responsible for their death. And every day I woke up and I believed that I had killed three people and that I should not be living my life. Like I didn't deserve anything good or positive or anything. And so, because of that, uh, the emotional pain was so intense. And then add on all the untreated trauma I already had experienced,
Right.
it was too much. And I plummeted into addiction. And for the next 10 years, I stayed in that cycle of just chronic addiction. And I finally got sober 10 years later when I was 27. It became really clear to me that I was repeating the same pattern I had experienced in my family. And I was doing the same thing to my daughter that had been done to me. And I realized that I did not want to do that. So I got clean and sober. And I've been clean and sober for 21 years now. And I thought I had arrived, truthfully, right? I thought, oh, this is it. No, no. This is where the body showed up. And this is where the body really started talking to me.
Ah.
And my health declined significantly. And then over the next 20 years, really, I became addicted to work and battled chronic illness. And finally, 3.5 years ago, my body said no more. And I almost died from mast cell activation syndrome and histamine intolerance. And since then, in the last 3.5 years, I've gone way deeper than I ever thought I could go. And I've learned how to heal my own body using my mind, meditation, and the power of regulating my nervous system.
Mm.
And so today, I don't have histamine intolerance or mast cell activation syndrome. And all of my blood work shows that. And I continue to just walk this spiritual path and continue to learn who I am at a deeper level every single day.
Mm. Wow. Yeah. What an amazing story. I love the way you talk about redefining your story. How, I hear that a lot, of course, but it's easier said than done. It takes courage, it takes commitment. I have a fundamental question for you. How do you make sense of suffering? Why do you think we go through all these painful experiences? Do you actually rationalize this idea that suffering, or it's something that's just it's part of the experience of being a human?
I believe it's definitely part of the experience of being human.
Right.
But I believe beyond that, that the reason that we suffer is to evolve our soul to our highest potential that
Mm.
we can come into in this lifetime. That's what I believe. And that's been my experience, right? That's been my lived experience.
Right. I think I had that belief system before, but now it's more getting to know what we are, not really who, but what, as you said, going as deep as we can, so we can be very clear with that. Once we know what we are, that we are spiritual beings, then something happens. Almost like all stories dissolve and only this moment remains. There's really nothing happening now but being here, and the feelings that are here, and the acceptance of living this moment fully and truthfully. So there's something about that always goes back to this moment, which is not really is a placeless, timeless, really for me. I don't really subscribe to the idea of time, but always space even. Do you have this feeling sometimes that we are just if we drop the stories, then there's what remains is something that's very peaceful, that's very quiet. It's it's silent, and there's nothing really happening but peace at the level of the body mind. It's kind of is interpreted as peace. Do you see that too, or is it just me?
This is so wonderful, and I'm smiling so big because I kind of feel like you've been following me around for like the last 3 years because I've been in a similar walk. And yes, 150%. I feel that's what I've noticed is that when I get out of the context of my story, um,
Mm,
and I open myself. So my practice involves every morning that I just ask to be as expanded and as open as I can possibly be. And it's really hard to articulate. I was having a conversation with a friend the other day and I was explaining this.
yes.
And I was saying to her, it's not about uh, being anything, it's about becoming everything, right? Like I'm so expansive, I'm so spacious that I am all of it, right?
Yes.
I don't know how that sits for you, but that's been what I've been leaning into. And the only way I can get there is to get out of the past and quit worrying about the future and
Mm.
be in this moment.
Oh, yeah, I do understand what you're saying. Yeah. And what a beautiful practice to have, right, Marcy? Yes, that's I go to sleep and wake up with that reflection, with the contemplation of the one ground of reality. That's one, not two. So, but this is my spiritual understandings. I'm a student of Vedanta, so that's all about one. But going back to the topic, do you feel that spiritual exploration, spiritual investigation, and knowledge can lead us to deep healing at the level of body mind to the point of ending worries and anxiety?
Yes, like undoubtedly, yes. Because again, that's the path I've walked. Like, yeah, absolutely 100%.
So, the main topic is listen to your worries and anxiety, which is a very insightful one, the idea of listening. So, all is well in this moment. So it goes back to the moment again. So, of course. So, in the practice of Qigong, the phrase Haola, it means that all is well now and everything is getting better all of the time. So, it's not a belief system. It's something that we have to integrate with reality, right, Marcy, in order to become an experience to be effective. Or do we start doing this, practicing affirmations by believing in them first and then experiencing them? I would love to know the process, what it was like for you.
That is such a fantastic question. Um,
Yeah.
I think some things I had to act my way into becoming able to believe it, and other things I was able to experience it because I believed it. And
Ah,
for me personally, with my life experiences, trust, belief, faith that everything's going to be okay is so difficult for me. That is like stretching me so thin.
yes.
And so a lot of these things, a lot of these practices, I've just had to do it. And then I see these amazing things transform in my life, whether it be on the interior or the exterior.
Right.
But I see this transformation that happens inevitably every time. And it's like, you can't deny it. You know what I mean? You cannot deny it.
Right. Right. It's not linear. It doesn't have to start anywhere. It's just
I
the
don't
the
think so.
commitment and being open, right, Marcy?
I believe that. Yes.
Yeah, being open to healing. Okay, getting to know yourself better, feeling better, and why not enjoying this experience, right? That's what I really go back to. It's the fun because I don't think we are here just to take everything so seriously and worry as much as we do and then get worked up. Although anxiety and worry, they are part of life too, aren't they? Do you measure that somehow in terms of what healthy worry is or healthy anxiety is versus something that is unhealthy and limiting? Do you balance those two? Or, yeah, I would love to hear that from you. I usually ask that question just in case.
Yeah. So for me, when it becomes out of balance is when I start to become hyper vigilant about something or obsessive, right? I think a
Mm,
healthy worry is like, okay, this situation is going to arise this afternoon. And there could be some, complexities to that. And that's concerning because I maybe not be fully prepared for those. That's like a healthy worry and concern, right? For me, I used to live in hypervigilance all day long.
right.
I was never safe anywhere I was in the world, even including in my own home, in my own bed. And so, laying in bed and thinking something bad is going to happen, that's definitely out of balance, right? And
Uh,
so it's like it also now it's a feeling, right? For me, it's very much a feeling. I can feel my nervous system just start to crank up, right? And then slowly rising. And that's the other indicator. So if I can't identify the thought sometimes because I just can't catch the thought, because
right.
I'm too busy or not present enough, then it's the feeling maybe that will get my attention.
Right. So the body is always trying to call our attention. And the problem is that we don't pay attention to the body. And that's when illnesses and diseases, they escalate and they become something else. And that's fascinating though, because that goes back to listening. And for some reason, we have lost that ability too, I notice. Do you think it's because life has changed a lot in the sense of has become too fast, too busy? We have now, I think the population now is so large than it used to be. Do you believe that there's a correlation there, Marcy, between the growth in population and how we live our lives these days and not listening to our own bodies?
Oh yeah, 100%, right? We're as physical human beings,
Mm,
our nervous system is not adapted to this fast paced, inundated with people and stimulus all the time. And so I absolutely agree that the way in which we live, how we live, especially in America,
mm,
it's like you all like where our worth and value is measured by what we do, what we achieve, what we have, right? So it keeps us on that constant.
right,
I got to get more. I got to do more. I got to be around more people. I got to get this done. I got to have this, right? And we're not attuned for that. Our physical being is not meant to do that.
yes, yes, yeah. And what would be the solution? Do you have a vision? Because I know most people go, they move to big cities in order to make a living, and they feel like they have no other option but to do that. So, what would be your vision and your message for people who are contemplating the idea of, living a simple life? I love the idea of simplicity. I don't know how much it's really possible, but yeah, talk to me about that for a moment. Your vision and your message. to change this reality?
What comes up for me initially is my own practice. So I've been a mortgage banker for the last 22 years.
Yeah.
So I've worked 7 days a week, really 24 hours a day. Whenever that phone rings, the email goes off, I'm working. And until 3.5 years ago. And what I've learned through that is that life is as life is. It simply is, whatever it is. If I live in Denver, I live in Oakland, or wherever I live, right? The practice is my own.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my work as being a human being is to take care of myself, regulate myself, and do all the things that are appropriate for my own wholeness and well being. So, regardless of where I live or what the world is inviting me to, doesn't mean that I have to show up for it,
Yeah.
right? And so I live my life really very intentionally, very, very intentionally. I look at my calendar, I see how many events I have for the week. And if someone, contacts me to do another event, if I'm at my maximum number, I'm not doing another event, right?
Right.
It's you I had to learn how to control my own consumption of the world around me, because really my favorite place to be is on the interior of myself, right? In contemplation, in meditation.
Yeah.
I love simplicity. um that's where I thrive. That's where I feel like life has the most meaning and purpose.
Mm. Do you believe that some of us are ready for it and some of us are not? That's another question that I usually ask, because it seems like if we are all really on that path in this moment in time, this world will look very differently. It would be a completely different world. But it seems like we are on the path, but not at the same time, perhaps. We are not in alignment yet. Is that something that you contemplate sometimes, that you think about it?
No, no.
Uh-huh.
I think about it, and
Yeah.
I wish that everybody was on the same path
Right.
at the
Yeah.
same time and the same place, but because yes, it would be such a more harmonious world.
Mm.
But I do believe, and I think just witnessing, like if you're paying attention right now in the world, that more people now are waking up than ever before,
Yeah.
to the reality of their existence, possibly their purpose here, what the intention is, and those kinds of things, which for me is exciting, I have to say is exciting. But I also am realistic and know that
Right.
it doesn't happen overnight, right? It didn't happen overnight for me, so I don't expect that it will happen overnight for others either. And I'm still on my path, right? Like, let's be real about that, right? Like, it doesn't end. I don't believe that we arrive while I'm in this physical form.
Mm, yes, you're right. Anxiety sucks the joy out of life because you can never relax long enough to just let things be. So I put a hearts around that phrase, especially the "just let things be." So when I think about it, this message, this statement, it kind of makes me think about freedom, of letting things be what they are, not trying to change them or forcing them to be something that they can be, especially in the moment. So, is that what was the inspiration for that within your own life?
The greatest teacher that I ever had, regarding this specific topic of letting things be, was the car accident that I was in.
Yeah,
That car accident um, was um, it was so difficult in every single way possible. It was difficult for me physically. It was difficult mentally and emotionally and spiritually,
yeah,
because I questioned everything. And so it was really like when I got sober and I started to walk the path of starting to heal that trauma, that I started working with this idea that the pain and suffering that I was feeling, a
Yeah.
large majority of the pain and suffering that I was feeling, is that I was resisting what had happened. Every day I would wake up and I would want it to be different. I wanted desperately to undo what had happened, and it's impossible.
Right.
It it's physically impossible to undo what has already happened. And what I was able to know and learn through this process is that when I drop the resistance, as soon as I stop that wanting and craving to have it be different and have it be the way that I envisioned it to be, then it was like it reduced my suffering by like 50%, like immediately, as soon as I could let that go. And so then I worked with the whole idea of, if I can't change it, then this is how it was intended to be,
Right.
right? It's like these slow steps, right? Of really contemplating and really opening myself to let it be. And when I could finally let it be, which is where I'm at today, and I know that this is how it is and this is what was supposed to happen, um, I have peace.
Yeah.
I have acceptance. It doesn't mean that it's not tender for me. Right? It doesn't mean that I don't respect and honor the life that was lost. It just means that I no longer want it to be different, and I'm not trying to conjure a story that would recognize that it's different. I'm just living in the reality of what is.
Right. Right. Yeah. What comes to mind is the idea of death. A lot of people don't want to talk about that, and it's one of the topics that I enjoy talking about because it's inevitable for all of us. We all will lose the body at some point. So it's truth, right? It's one of those fundamental truths that no one can escape. So how do you see this idea of death?
What a fantastic question. So, when my body said no more
Yeah.
3.5 years ago, I was bedridden. I became bedridden for 40 days. And in that stretch of 40 days, there were 3 days in particular that all ran together.
Right.
That every night I thought I was dying, literally. And it was during COVID, and I already had my own cytokine storm going on in my body. So for me to go to the hospital and potentially catch COVID, there was no doubt I would definitely die. So calling 911 was not an option.
Right.
There was literally nothing I could do. That's how I felt. And um, so I laid in bed and I fully surrendered. Like, as far as I'm concerned, I stared death in the eye, and I fully surrendered. Um,
Mm.
what became so clear to me is that I was living my life completely backwards and wrong for what I believed I was here to do. And that all the accolades that I had received in my career, and all of this stuff and money and whatever, all the things, right, the tangible things, uh, and that moment meant nothing.
Right.
I mean nothing. And I was resentful. I was resentful that I had let them become to mean something. And I believe that I made a choice that day that if I was going to live, even if, because these issues that I was experiencing are not curable per se, that's what the medical community will tell you, that you just have to live with this stuff, and they'll try to make you comfortable.
Right.
And I just made the decision so that if I lived another 3 days or I lived another 3 years or 30, that I was going to live the way that I wanted to live. And that what was important to me was loving myself and valuing myself enough to stop doing the behaviors that I had been doing, to love my family the way that I felt like they deserved to be loved because I had ignored them for all the other beliefs that I had let take over.
Right.
And that if I only got 3 more days to do that, then I was going to do it fully. Or if I was lucky enough to get years, then I was going to do it fully. But that was my commitment. And so for me, and I've been terrified of death, all of my life. And then the car accident really terrified me. And then, um, so for me, death has become this thing. It's a teacher.
Yeah.
It's a gift, right? When I got to stare death in the eye, it woke me up, right? It reminded me. It allowed me to remember who I am and what I am. It knocked on my door loudly enough that I was willing to hear it. And it is by far the best thing that has ever happened to me. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yes. Have you lost the fear of losing the body?
Yeah, I mean, I still have some sort of fear around it,
Yeah.
but I'm I live in a place now that I believe, I know, I've experienced through deep meditation practices and mystical experiences
Yeah.
that it, when we lose the body, that's all that's happening. We go on. The essence of who we are continues. I'm so certain of that.
Yeah.
But I guess like the thought of the physical experience of losing my body is what brings up some sort of emotion of fear.
Yes, yes. So you do have the big picture that we don't die. That's to me that's very important that humans that we get to understand that we get to realize that it doesn't go away. It's always here, what we are. But yes, of course, the body. Yeah, the body is an interesting anchor to this physical reality. So that's the nature of the mind, really, to think, to analyze, to remember. We can't really stop that. It's like trying to stop, I don't know, the ocean from having waves or or moving. We're just trying to do something that's impossible. Do you feel the same way, Marcy, in a way?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. It's 100% yes. I mean, like you say, a billion times yes.
Yes.
Um, yes. I mean, our thoughts are the root of our own suffering. And I mean, I see it over and over again for myself, for the people that I work with, over and over. I see it in humanity, just, across the board. And so, and I agree with you too that, trying to stop our thoughts is like trying to stop the ocean.
Yes.
But here's what I've learned is that I can't stop my thoughts, but I can start to think in a much more skillful way.
Right.
So instead of being fixated on everything that's wrong, everything that may go wrong, the fear, the turmoil, and whatnot, I can undo that because of neuroplasticity in our brain. And I can now think the thoughts that I want to think.
Yeah.
Right. And yes, the old thoughts still creep in, of course, it's inevitable. But I can tell you that instead of it being 90% old thoughts and old belief systems running my day, it's like 10%. And now my life is 90% of productive, skillful, intentional thoughts, and only 10% is the old.
Yeah, that's it. Yes. So you call it intentional. That's a practice, right, Marcy?
Oh,
Yeah, that's
yes.
that's totally a practice. And that's what you offer. So you're a coach, you offer one-on-one coaching, and you also have courses. I didn't see them there, but you do offer courses too.
Actually, when we connected, I was offering some courses, but I stopped doing that and redirected my attention to
Okay.
just coaching people because it feels like this work is more impactful when you and I can talk about it rather than me giving you something to do. For some people, it's just
Yes.
too heavy, too much. They have too many questions, and so it wasn't landing the way I intended.
Yes. Okay. So one-on-one coaching and then the podcast that you're hosting. And so we didn't talk. We're almost at the end, and I apologize for not going through the exercise. I know you have step 1, 2, and 3. I want to mention them. So step 1 is listen to your body and write down what is that you feel. So that's crucial, right? As the first step. And why is it important to write it down, Marcy?
Well, because our body's always communicating with us. And when we write stuff down, you're tapping directly into the nervous system,
Mm,
which is where everything is stored in the body, right? And it's amazing when you're intentional and thoughtful about that, what the body will disclose to us.
yes, yes, yeah, of course. I asked the question just for the audience here, but I do know. Yes, I
Sure, of
love
course.
writing. My God, yeah, that's therapy, healing, spiritual, everything that I can think
Yes,
of all together.
yes.
So the second step 2, is listen to the chatter in your mind and write down again the themes that you notice.
Mm.
So first listen to your body and then listen to the mind and the content of mind. And again, write it down. Is there anything else that you can say about that step 2? Anything else that we must do?
Yeah, I mean, just really pay attention to the themes, right?
Yeah.
Because 95% of the time, I really haven't seen anyone that we don't uncover themes when they do this work, right?
Yes.
And so you can start to see it's like, oh, it's my finances, it's my, worth and value about who I am, it's right. And you can start to see what the overlying themes and beliefs are that are running through your mind.
Yes. That's wonderful because then we can see also the contradictions, right? The conflicts.
Mhm.
Because some people they want to have this a life that's say simple. They want to have less bills and all that, but they want to have a big house and live in a have a fancy car or be in the middle of an expensive city in a very high end neighborhood. So yeah, that will be in conflict. That will be a conflict because if you want a peace of mind and if you don't want to worry about money, then we need to change our way of living. We have to be courageous enough to make that change too. Is that something that you talk to your clients about? The conflicts and contradictions?
Yes, absolutely. 100%. I love that you brought that up. It's so insightful on your part. But yeah, absolutely. And I think it's part of being human
Yeah.
until you start to really pay attention to this. People come to me and they say all the time, like, Marcy, I want a peaceful, fulfilling, purposeful life. And then,
Yeah.
on the other hand, they're like, but I want to be number one at my job and I want my kids to be in every activity and right? It's like, but nothing is aligning at all for any of that to happen. Yeah.
Yes. That's the work of self awareness and self knowledge, self exploration again. Wow, it's just fascinating, right, Marcy, how much we can uncover when we are willing to look deeper. It's incredible. What's not to love about that? When I think about the work that you do, right, being around people who are open, ready to change and to investigate their own being. And so, step 3, connect the pattern between thoughts and physical sensations. I would love to hear an example of this. What would that look like?
Yeah. So I can use my own personal example. So I get into a place of, let's say, financial fear, right? Start worrying about money.
Yeah,
And then the next thing you know, my stomach starts to feel a little bit upset. And then the next thing you know, my palms are a little bit sweaty, right? And then if left unchecked,
yeah,
then things escalate from there, right? My breathing becomes more shallow and rapid. right? Because my body's literally preparing for that survival mode because I'm just running thought after thought after thought of fear. The body's listening. The body's always listening to what I'm thinking.
Mm, wow, that's, you see, this is, if we can take one message, this would be, I mean, a powerful one to really apply. I mean, something that we can start with, just paying attention how our thoughts affect the body. And then everything else, right? Our health, our relationships, and our work, everything. It's touched by it. Is there anything that you left unsaid? Gosh, I would talk to you forever.
I know. I feel like, oh my God, can we have a weekly chat or what?
Yes, right.
Yeah, this has been
Yeah,
wonderful, and I'd love to
yeah,
hear more about your journey and what you're always working with and uncovering. Um, no, there really, I feel like you've, asked such wonderful questions. There's not really anything, left unsaid that I can think of. It's just, I think my message mostly to people right now is to just not lose hope.
yeah,
This time feels heavy. The energy is intense. It can feel really overwhelming. So self-care is so important to keep coming back to ourselves over and over again. To really support ourselves during this time is so important, and to remain hopeful, right? Like that this consciousness, this divine intelligence, whatever this is, that it knows, right?
right,
Whatever
right.
we're being led through, it's okay, right? It's okay.
Yes, yeah. Beautiful message too. In the very end, yes, self-love, listening to life itself and surrendering to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that too. So your website is marcylanglois.com. And then
Yes.
I know you're also on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. So all that will be on the podcast interview profile. So it'll be clickable. Two questions before we end the conversation, if you don't mind, Marcy. One question that I usually ask everyone to end the conversation, but this is one that I have to ask you. Are you planning to write a book with your story?
I started writing a book and I've set it down, but I have some work done on a book, and
Uh,
you're like the third person in a week that's asked me if I'm going to write a book, so I feel like that might be a prompting.
yes.
Uh, so I'm open.
Yes, yes, yeah, it's a sign for sure because I thought about it. As soon as I start reading about your story, that's what came to mind immediately. Wow, that would be an interesting book to read, to have out there for people to, that what your message about hope. There's something about, reading people's story, listening to them. It really inspires us, especially those
Yes.
who are going through the same similar challenges. So that would be wonderful.
Yes.
Please let me know. Keep me updated.
I will.
And my last question is, what three experiences you wish everyone to have before they lose the body, before they die?
Ooh, that's like a mic drop.
Yes.
Um, the three experiences would be, oh gosh, for sure to love yourself fully, wholly, and completely.
Yeah.
To recognize your own value and worth, um, to embody it, and just not know it, but literally embody it, to be it. Um,
Yeah.
the second thing is to love someone else that way, to give that away to somebody else, uh, is so powerful. Um,
Yeah.
and the third thing, it's hard to only choose three.
Yes, I know.
um,
Yeah.
the third thing that I would say is to be able to live present, to to literally adopt that as a way of life, and to live in this moment always, each moment as it comes, and just to keep doing that over and over, because the freedom
Yeah.
when I can get in the flow of that space is otherworldly, literally. Um, the practice is so worthwhile and so meaningful. To me, it has been life saving and life giving.
Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Another billion yeses to that. Yes, to the three messages and vision that you have. Those are beautiful. I hear love all the time. That always comes as a message. Everyone says that. Rarely I hear them self love for some reason. I hear about loving and being loved, love and being the most important thing. But self love and being in the moment, right? That's powerful. And
Mhm.
yeah, it's a beautiful vision, isn't it, Marcy, for all of us? I can't help but kind of have that as this, this almost it's a dreamlike kind of reality that everyone can tap into these wisdom, timeless wisdom, as I call it.
Mhm.
That would be amazing. Well, I think that's what we are trying to do here. So, yeah, it's life itself, right? Doing its work of spreading, kind of letting people know that it is possible. It is possible. It is possible. So, thank you so much for being another voice within this reality. Thank you so much for your presence in our reality.
Mhm.
Thank you, Marcy.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, I'll talk to you soon. Take good care of your beautiful self. Bye for now.